Ainchisi kachungangunapa. Kai pikashani Bolivia suyupi. Gangunapa kachun hatun napanguyguy. Kai Pachamama paigunata ayuspata. I would also like to pay my respect to the ancestors in South Africa. They were, are, and forever be the guardians of the land. I'll share my screen. When I started working with tilt brush and a new way to understand the world, I realized that film and how it was constructed, it was a very colonizing tool, even from the construction of image, even from animations for how we were described. So I decided to start challenging little by little. It was a journey for me, but I started to challenge those ideas and start to think how we will represent each other, how the Quechua people, the Andean people will represent each other. And I started to work with different architecture. I call it film architecture. I call it film design, fashion, in a way, even how we represent our faces. You know, we represent all our art is really square. So I start using a lot of square models and things like this to play with how we will do this. And I'll play a little jaguar, and inspired by an African proverb that I have made it relevant to my own ancestry. In my lands, I say that until the jaguars tell their own story, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. So I've been creating all of these things on the go. I work a lot with things all the time. I'm very happy to be back in Bolivia and talk to all of you from Bolivia. And I will play you a little bit of my presentation by my avatars. I think they're cuter than me, actually.
Our generation is living through an unprecedented technological revolution as tech corporations fight for our attention and our imaginations. We should be envisioning and materializing our evolving digital identities instead of letting tech corporations determine them.
The first version of the Internet, Web 1.0, the read-only web, allowed us to search for information online. We were able to read, but we did not have the ability to add content on our own. Static HTML, email, forums, chat, low bandwidth.
Web 2.0 means that the Internet is what we know it to be today. Blogs and social media sites, shopping, news generation, and online streaming, Netflix, Amazon. It also included user-generated content posted online by regular users as a more direct form of communication as opposed to traditional media sources.
We're at a crossroads between Web 2 and Web 3. Web 2 is centralized, and Web 3 will be decentralized. Web 3.0 is the semantic web. This means that advanced metadata is being used to structure and arrange all kinds of data in such a way that it can be read by both humans and machines.
The pillars of Web 3.0 are artificial intelligence and decentralized networks, because data is distributed to the edges and into the hands of the people who own it, empowering them to own their data and determine how it can be shared. We have never been able to leverage the power of 3D graphics and visuals until now. The future of today is happening right now, right here.
So, this is something I created last night, and this morning I finished it. So it's totally computer generated. And it was with everything that I'm going to show you here today is made by me on the go as it goes, as I am experimenting. I'm taking this moment as an experiment, as a decolonizing exercise, a part of my life and how I feel about everything. So the next thing I'll show you a little bit is that how film is evolving for me, how I feel like it's changing. In a world surrounded by infinite content, a film is no longer a single story or a single production. After 100 years, just 100 years of its introduction, film has shaped society in ways so much that we're not quite sure when something is real or when fiction ends and reality begins. So I believe that another way of communication is brewing. Film is changing, the way we consume stories is changing, the way we produce stories is changing, the way we communicate with each other is changing. So the line between the real and the digital is becoming more and more blurred. At this intersection of media and communication, I'm sure we will be able to create any experience that we can imagine. But can we imagine experiences? Our imagination and our ideas are being standardized. I ask this question myself all the time. But the overlap between the physical world and the metaverse will allow us to modify our environment in real time. So I created this character with children, and I show it to children, and we create this little story. And then I take the characters with me when I was traveling back to Bolivia, and I put them to come with me and fly with me, and you know, they no longer belong to the physical world, but they belong to my world, right? So what I've been doing all of the months that I've been, or 2 years in lockdown in Australia, I've been thinking about thinking. I call it metacognition. No, I don't call it metacognition. It's called metacognition. But I've been thinking about the process of thinking, about how you generate ideas, how everything that you see comes back to you, how this is shaping our identities. And I think that representation is not just your skin color or your culture or your identity. Sorry, it's everything. Representation is more than skin color, culture, identity, language, interaction, a way we see and we understand the world. So the pandemic forced us to live our lives more digitally. So this unprecedented moment for me made me try to experiment a lot. And this is a little thing that I achieved.
And we did it.
When I did
Human capture.
my first capture of myself, and I was able to put myself in AR and in VR within a few hours. So for me, I felt that
I am speechless, really.
I felt that I was speechless today. So for me, that moment, it changed how I was relating to everything. So I didn't have to relate on avatars created for me. I didn't have to relate on avatars that I had to create from zero, but I could start with my own self. And that was a game changer to see about representation and my own reality. I like myself. I don't want to sometimes be represented by something else. Sometimes I do. And when I do, I don't identify myself with these cyborgs and these ideas, because I think the future, it could be much better if we create a future. So this is something that I created while I was sorry, I have dyspraxia, so I forget ideas, but when I was locked down in Sydney.
Good morning. What is the metaverse? What is augmented reality? It's flowers that dance. It's us respecting Mother Earth. It won't replace reality, but it will replace our relationship with flat screens. I am living inside a dream. I am creating a dream. I never imagined that this would be possible.
Meow. 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 The next train that's gonna arrive on platform 2 is going to Stanmore. Petersham, there's a flower that escaped the city. We need to save her. Her looks are very magnificent, but there's a little problem. She can easily trick you, so then you'll think that's not her. So very carefully bring it to us. Freedom is dangerous.
Violeta doesn't really understand the concept of this place. Plastic to wrap up food, plastic bottles to sell water. This is really beyond her imagination. And she looks to a blonde guy there. It's done. And she looks at him and says, "What are you doing?"
Si Diego Rivera sería una flor, yo creo que sería un cartucho panzón, un cartucho gordo y panzón, como le decía la Frida Kahlo.
Entropy's lover. She's a librarian during the day, but in the nights, she holds a secret. She's one of the best drummers in the world, but she's a little bit bored of people, so she only plays at nights when no one can hear her.
Pink Eyes started dancing at the age of 3 in Sydney,
where she attended a Newtown High School of the Performing Arts. Her dream is to play the piano, but there is a little detail.
She has no fingers, oh no.
Her last boyfriend was a barista, but he was more interested in an introduced flower called rose.
It's a wonderful day. There's a sort of thing to do. Oh, thank you, right? I look so cool. Oh, bonjour, ma chérie. T'es si belle, toi aussi. J'adore ces petites affaires sur toi. Oh, t'inquiète pas. Toi, t'es vraiment magnifique. Oh, thank you. I love your dress. Oh.
Creo en las acciones cotidianas que te llenan de vida, te llenan de esperanza.
So I created this through Bacamba, and I was in Cochabamba, and in La Paz I started creating with my co-creators arrived, Rilda Paco. She is an amazing 3D artist, digital artist, and Maria is a fashion designer, and I start working with them, and we start creating with volumetric capture and with to So we made Rilda, she's using a pollera, we're designing our own identity. Well, we're not designing, these identities exist. This is my town, it's 2 blocks away from my house. Downstairs and upstairs, it's La Paz, it's the streets of La Paz. So I put in all different sorts of avatars here. I wanted to share, I will see if I have the time, I wanted to share my working screen to see how I work and I put things together in Reality Composer. And so it's quite cool to see how like she comes out of the computer and we marry in our like something so traditional like the pollera, that is something that any woman wears in Bolivia, any indigenous woman wear in Bolivia, and a t-shirt that I designed myself a long time ago that is called Fuck Racism. So through augmented reality, we can bring the digital world into the physical one. And finding the balance between virtual and physical reality will be an important, I think that for me will be the most important design challenge over the next few years while we fight against this standardization. So I don't want to create the same stuff that everybody, a pre-made world. A pre-made world is very good and very cool to communicate, but it's not very cool for me for self-representation while I search for my identity. So as Ingrid said, in 2021, we premiered Prison X in Sundance. And Prison X was an immersive and an interactive VR experience. And I want to say that by the time I didn't know anything when I started this project about 3D, about VR or XR or artificial intelligence or nothing that I'm working with today. So I made films like I filmed. But then I realized that even that construction of the 3-act structure was a colonialistic way of seeing myself. And for me, this gave me the opportunity to, I don't know, to go further and to understand my own process. So Prison X is the foundation of the Cholaverse, the Neo-Andean metaverse. It translates the 3D realm or our own way to understand time, space, the virtual world, philosophy, mythology, and our all own evolving pop cultures. So the characters, the fashion, the sound, the aesthetic, the architecture, and interaction are part of this, of the gameplay, even the gameplay are part of this journey. So it's a mixture between theater, film, and gameplay. In Prison X, we have combined in a very delicate balance to do this. We have worked with, I call it a dance together between different visual languages and visual words that takes place in something that is very familiar, like a theater, that takes you into my world, or my definition of this world. So we work with Maria, fashion designer, a live sound engineer, a DJ, a 3D artist, and a developer. So very different people that you will usually work on a film. So I call this is a new visual language for the emerging film futurism. If I won't tell you the pipeline because that pipeline is outdated by this year. Today I will do it differently. So because technology is going 1,000 miles per hour, right? So we're going all through experimentation. So I'll play Prison X. Oof. If he plays. Perdón, sorry, I'm running late. The show is about to start. It looks like I'm missing an actor. You, hola, sí, tú. I'm talking to you. Can you please play Inti? Can you please put on his mask? It's behind you. Wonderful. Now you're Inti, the sun. Sorry, my bad. Perdón, sorry. I'm running late. The show is about to start. It looks like I'm missing an actor. You, hola, sí, tú. I'm talking to you. Can you please play Inti? Can you please put on his mask? It's behind you. Wonderful. Now you're Inti, the sun.
In the blink of an eye, your freedom is taken away. Don't let the devil take your soul.
Hurry up. Hurry up.
You were then caught on the Argentinian border with 2 kilos of La Blanca, that white powder called cocaine.
Roll it now.
Amigo, you just come from the calabozo.
Get the hell out of my side. You are lower than the rats.
There are all kinds of people in here. They're all superstitious. They believe there's a devil in here.
Inti, you have a phone call on booth 2.
The days will go so slowly. Every night here will feel like an eternity to you. And there is plenty of time to steal your soul.
So, for me, it was very important, as I said before, to create our own identity. From the beginning, you know what I mean? Like when I wasn't 100% sure how I'll make this, and I found out Tilbrush with a friend in Toulouse. And when he showed me, I knew that that was the way to do it, because I was really precise and strong about identity and how we will draw ourselves and we'll identify ourselves, and we will use pretty much our own popular culture. In Bolivia, Quechua people, Andean people, our culture doesn't need to live in a museum. It's alive on the streets and evolves. And we work a lot with colors. You know, when I brought into Maria, the fashion designer that I found her in Berlin, or I stalked her. I think I went and followed her everywhere to find her, because I knew that she would understand what I was looking for. And I will find also Rilda, an artist that won't have to copy anything, that won't have to go and search ideas or photographs, that I will say to her, make me someone like Killa, a young Quechua woman like me or like you, and she will make it without having the need to research, because a skill for me is something that you learn, but identity and talent, you don't, you have it, and imagination, you have it. You can't learn that. And trying to copy that, and I feel like that's a cultural theft from other cultures, so it had to be mine. So we play a lot with earth and strong colors. We try to inspire ourselves in Andean futurism through Afrofuturism. And we also use the cholets by Freddy Mamani, that they're Andean palaces in El Alto. And that's when we realize, and we find out that the way that our ancestors were expressing themselves when they draw their faces were squares. That's further along. And so we also, we had a character in Prison X, the magpie, the one who comes from Australia to steal our stories, because he thinks that he knows better than us and wants to help us. So we are looking at the blacks and whites in the design about how we represent him. And his magpie is an Australian bird, and it also represents Aboriginals. So in a sense, it's a bit, he's a foreigner of sorts. And then Nuna, she is inspiring my grandmother, and she died during that time. So for me, it was very strong to have her in this work. And this is our own cultural and our own traditional dances in carnavales. And the devil is an iconic character in Bolivia, but I wanted to go further. I was tackling a problem about incarceration and the war on drugs in Bolivia. And I wanted to also work in Bolivia to say that the devil was androgynous this time, was a woman or androgynous, but not a man that it usually is. So this is a little bit of the references that we use. We use the real life references to create our own characters that will represent us. Really, really not looking at anything like Disney will offer me, because I don't want anything like this. And then I believe the film experiences as a sum of its parts. We should be envisioning and materializing our evolving identities instead of letting tech oligarchies determine them. Virtual avatars are the new shape shifters, I believe. We cannot only now create our own identities or our own versions of ourselves, but we can inhabit them. So what we need more than ever, I feel like, is to create fair forms of ownership within these emerging digital economies, and to experiment with how to develop the social capabilities of avatars to explore the depth of augmented reality, virtual reality, and all extended realities. These are issues that will inevitably arise during the production of any digital experience, either film or fashion,
The sound of the birds.
and involves more than just the content creation. It encompasses the development of culture through 3D, sound design, motion capture, real-time user interaction, how we interact with each other. We don't all interact the same way. We don't all have the same social clues and cues in our cultures. So we need to have this very present in the work that we do. So this is, as this little thing is something that I was doing in Sydney. You see the look that I gave you from Bolivia, this has totally different look. So this is a different way of understanding. And even when I'm there, I feel like a very different way of understanding the world when I'm in Sydney and when I'm back home. So the characters that I create are of course more Westernized, because that's my influence in the moment. So this is, I brought her when I brought my avatar from Ready Player Me, but I like the avatars, but I still have to make it my own. So I designed all my clothes, and I redressed myself, and I took her out of Ready Player Me, and I created even the glasses, and I put other clothes, because I don't like, I think they're wonderful, but I didn't want to use them. And yesterday, I trapped Rilda in a bottle. I want to trap my grandparents in a bottle. I had this idea for a very long time, but you know, I trapped Rilda in a bottle. And so these are two clips that are supposed to play at the same time, but I can't. So I came back to Bolivia, and as you can see in Prison X, all the reality is here. This is the carnival here. I just found the other day. And as you can see it's all the references who I am are here. So, and I could only work with a Bolivian team to do this. This is something that happens every year in carnavales, in Urcupiña, in every traditional party. I love it. You know, I'm quite proud about the evolution of my culture also, even though after surviving a genocide, and how we even take Michael Jackson and make it our own. And I'm also working with Maria and Rilda on as the Chola Verso. The Chola Verso, as Maria is a fashion designer, we're working with Marvelous Designer, and we're working to create these different, these clothes Maria has in her store in Berlin. And we are also inspiring ourselves to go with this. In the beginning, I had to be simple. Now we are learning more and more. As I said, I'm the one who wants to be doing this work, and Maria too. We don't want to get somebody else to do it for us, because then we're not gonna learn. So this is our journey. And yeah, it's beautiful. Like, we can use it in any avatar. So we're quite proud of what we achieve. And you can buy it in Maria's store in Berlin too. And next things is what this means for me and the brother of us. Me, I'm gonna talk as a filmmaker, as an artist. I'm all my life I've been a filmmaker, so it's a little bit hard to walk away from it. Of course, I'm not walking away, because I believe in the future of film and film futurism. But I think that we will have more power in the storytelling of our films. We can have more control over the stories we wanna tell and how we see it. For the first time, we can be able to tell our own stories in a way, and we can control them. We will be able to create our own worlds, securing the knowledge that no third party can censor what we can create. And I believe that the fight is not between large media companies or corporations or us on our new world, but the tech oligarchy, the oligarchy of technological, that trying to standardize our ideas, our imaginations, and our feelings. So I don't think, I think that we have to co-create together, even with, I don't know, corporations need to change. But this is not a battle between large media corporations and independent studios, but who will tell their stories? Who will decide for ourselves what a story should look like? And it's not about, artificial intelligence or decentralized networks, but what it can represent. Today, when I did these avatars, in the beginning, who helped me to present, I couldn't find ones who have a Bolivian or a Spanish accent. How lame, right? So we need to start creating all of this. We need to start feeding into these so we can create and we can survive with our own identities, you know? Because this, for me, it is about self-sovereign identity, and the end game will be creative sovereignty. But it can go either way, because tech oligarchs are driving culture and defining laws at the moment. So it really, it's quite complex, but it's in our hands to see what we want to do, right? And now I'll talk a little bit about how film is changing, how fashion is changing, how we communicate with each other is changing. And I think we're going from single creation to building a digital memory. So the most important skills that I feel to develop are critical thinking, to forge an ethical framework. The ownership of your content, your IP, is key. And the key is not just what we can create, but what others can create on top of what we create. So I took this little spectrum of authorship from Ken Bai, who is an XR oral historian, and again I made it my own. And he talks about the author narrative and the generative narrative, and how we're going to go from the in a traditional film, the character of an event of a person or culture is revealed, but when we do generative narrative, the character of the interactor is revealed. So in the author narrative, the person who participates or watches has no agency or impact on the story. But in the generative narrative, it will have an impact in the story. And it's already happening in Web 2. Like, I came to Bolivia and I did this little video on the 8M and the protest. And I didn't even have a TikTok account, but I knew TikTok is quite popular in Bolivia. So I made this TikTok account a few days ago before, and I put this video, and it go like, now it's almost 300,000 views. And it created a massive, intense debate, and people are using it to create double duets and everything. So I'm building over what I build. Is this more impactful of a film? Is this less impactful of a film? The fashion of these girls that these wear is quite amazing. The way that they represent themselves is amazing. So I think that's how I feel like we're changing, and everything is building on the top of what others build. So from fully traditional story, I was a fully traditional storyteller to create interactive stories, to create stories with multiple endings, to branching path stories, open-ended stories, and my aim will be to create fully community-driven stories. And I'm about to finish. So I have time for questions. So I believe that XR is giving us the possibility to look into colonization at a meta level. It is scary too. It can go either way. And how hard, like, I don't have the same access to technology here in Bolivia that I have in Australia, right? And I am very conscious about that too. In February 2021, we founded CoXYZ, a co-creation studio that experiments with VR, AR, XR, AI to create the neon, the metaverse, the Cholaverse. And we have, at the moment, in the ground floor here in COA, we have an exhibition of the characters and the world of Prison X. And upstairs in Crypto Boxes, we have different exhibitions that rotate. And Crypto Boxes is a user-owned virtual world and metaverse powered by Ethereum blockchain, as you probably all know. And you know, the aim is to have our own Cholaverse, not to even rely on Crypto Boxes. But at the moment, it's great to have it, and it's great to be able to have our art as it. So Rilda probably became the first artist in Bolivia who is actually selling, or she minted her first NFT. And well, from Bolivia, in Bolivia, because I did it a little bit early, you know? So maybe I can, if you want me to, I can walk with you through in Crypto Boxes, or you can do it on your own. And so for me, self-expression, the world around us is so important in what's coming to it.